I've been dreaming, friendly faces. I've got so much time to kill. Just imagine people laughing. I know someday we will. And even if it's far away, get me through another day. Cover me in sunshine, shower me with good times. Tell me that the world's been spinning since the beginning, and everything will be alright. Cover me in sunshine. From a distance, all these mountains are just some tiny hills. Wildflowers, they keep living. They're just there and still. I've been missing yesterday, but what if there's a better place? Cover me in sunshine, shower me with good times. Tell me that the world's been spinning since the beginning, and everything will be alright. Cover me in sunshine, shower me with good times. Tell me that the world's been spinning since the beginning, and everything will be alright. Cover me in sunshine. La la la, la la la. Cover me in sunshine, shower me with good times. Tell me that the world's been spinning since the beginning, and everything will be alright. Cover me in sunshine.
Hello, Sonder fam. Good morning and welcome to our Saturday morning weekly setup. A little ahead of myself. I saw that maybe one or two people were saying like no audio, but other folks seem to be hearing me. So if that's you, I would check your audio settings and maybe try leaving and coming back if that doesn't work. So yes, we do have quite a bit of snow here in Hendersonville, Tennessee, which is where I'm dialing in from. I say quite a bit. It's quite a bit for us. It's about 3 to 4 inches. We don't get a lot of snow here in the Middle Tennessee area. When we do, it's usually like a dusting and it just covers a nice little sheet of ice. But this time around, we got a nice amount of snow and it didn't really impact the roads for once too bad. So it's been kind of nice and very pretty, and I'm enjoying it because it will be gone in just a few days. So, oh wow, yeah, Georgie says they have almost 2 feet there. So, so yeah, for us, a few inches is a lot. It's very pretty outside. So all is well here. Obviously, there's a lot of weather events and things going on in the country right now, and our thoughts are definitely with those that have been impacted by the fires that are raging in California, and those of you who maybe snow has had a large impact on your community. But we're really glad that all of you are here with us today and safe, and we can kind of lean into our routine and practices, including like, practicing some gratitude and thinking with some reflection, right? I think that in times when things are going rough and we don't have a lot of control over it, leaning into gratitude where we can be really, really helpful. So with that said, if this is your first weekly setup, or if you haven't been to one in a while, welcome. Make sure that your chat box where you type is set to everyone. A lot of the times it will default to host and panelist, and if it does that, not everyone will be able to see what you're sharing. So just make sure that you have that chat set to everyone. And I see lots of familiar names in the chat, so welcome back to those of you who are our regular attendees. It's always so nice to spend this time with all of you. Katie is my co-pilot today. She just got back home to Scotland. So she is here doing good work for us today, hopping right off of a flight. doing the most. So we're happy to have her here with us. But only myself will have to worry about being on or off camera, muted or not. And then Katie will be in the chat to help out, and I'll also be in the chat to help out periodically. But it's cameras off, so you can come in your jammies, you can roll straight out of bed, you can have messy hair, don't care. Sit down with your favorite coffee or tea or whatever you like to start your day with, and just get ready to spend some time with yourself. As we go through, we'll be sharing some examples up on the screen, maybe like some inspiration, tips and tricks, things like that. Feel free to snap photos as we go through or take screenshots, however it is that you're viewing your screen. And then also don't be afraid to ask for tips and tricks in the chat. Share in the chat if you're comfortable. I'm going to have things here that I'm sharing, of course, but you have a whole group of, there's over 100 folks here today right now, who also have their own ideas and tips and tricks, and you never know who might have the perfect suggestion. So the best thing about coming to a social in person is that you do get to have this dedicated time, not only with yourself, but also with your community. So definitely utilize it while they are here. So we'll run through our community guidelines really quickly. First and foremost, be kind and courteous to yourself and to others. No promotion or spam, please. We are going to respect everyone's privacy here, and no hate speech or bullying. We're going to limit repetitive product and accessory questions here as well. We don't mind some chatter around, what your favorite stickers are, or pens, or things like that, or, the supplemental journals like the Life Workbook and other stuff like that. But we want to make sure that you have time to do the weekly setup, because that's what we're here for. Anything that myself or Katie cannot assist with, we will direct you over to hello@silkandsonder.com. That is the team up at headquarters, and they have access to a lot more things and troubleshooting and stuff like that than we do. So if there's something we can't help you with, we will defer you to them. And then finally, Sonder Socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community, but you are responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. So in a nutshell, what that looks like is take what you need from this time. If you are here to spend time in community and that is your focus, and you're going to kind of like do a little bit of work in your journal, but mostly just kind of get ideas and hang out and then do that setup later, that's totally fine. If you're the opposite and you're like, no, this time is for me right now, I'm just, keeping this as a placeholder to make sure that I get my setup done. It's for me, myself, and I'm not really going to engage in the chat. That's fine too. You could do a combination of both as well. As we touch on some opening topics and things where we get into more, journal prompt type related stuff, if any kind of heavy or tough or big feelings come up that you're not ready to engage with today, here is, the declaration of me giving you permission to skip it. You don't need me to give you permission. You have your own permission to skip anything that doesn't work for you at any moment in time. But sometimes I know it helps to have another person say, hey, it's okay if you skip this activity, if something comes up that you're not ready to tackle today. Yes, Nicole is saying crunchy feelings. That's what I like to call them typically. So with that said, we are going to roll on over to our agenda here. So each week in the weekly setups, we get to do what we call a mind map, which is a prompt around our theme for the month. And our theme this month is prosperity. We'll talk about that in a second, but we'll start with that. Then we will complete our rosebud thorn reflection exercise, kind of thinking back on the last 7 days before we move into the next 7 days ahead with our weekly setup. So as I mentioned, and as I'm sure you all know, prosperity is this month's theme. And it's one of those themes that I think everybody, your brain immediately goes to one thing when you think of the word prosperity. But then if you stop and slow down and think about it a little bit more, there's really more that can kind of apply to prosperity, right? I think brain tends to go to, wealth or, financial prosperity or, bright shiny gold things, right? Like all the bells and whistles and pretty things and everything else. But those of you that have already kind of done a few prompts with us and have had a few weeks to think about this know that when we think about prosperity, and even when we think about wealth, we can think about wealth from a holistic standpoint, right? Like from all areas of our life. It's not just about monetary prosperity or monetary wealth. It is about, making sure that you are wealthy in your connections and your relationship, and that includes your relationship with yourself. Making sure that you are taking care of yourself mentally, emotionally, physically, doing everything that you can to hopefully kind of fill your life up with abundance. So that's kind of the perspective that I'm looking at with prosperity, and the little blurb that's up on the screen is a quick thing that Google was so helpful to provide me with when I said, "Hey, Google, if I wanted to think about prosperity from like a self-care perspective, what would that look like?" And it spit out this really great kind of paragraph that I think really speaks to that, and talks about really making sure that it's applying to all aspects of your life. So I think that that makes this a very broad theme for us this month, which is great because obviously it's January, it's the start of a new year. Lots of us have new goals and visions and things we want to see for ourselves for the month. I don't know if you can hear that ruckus. Apologies, those are the cats playing. They are already awake and feeling very prosperous in their zoomies this morning. But anyways, so making sure that we are applying this to all areas of our life and just leaning into the different ways that we can kind of use this to propel those goals that we have or visions and things that we have for the next 12 months. So without further ado, we are going to start on that prosperity mind map. So go ahead and flip to a blank page or space in your journal, or if you've already started a page for your mind map, flip on over to that page. As we've talked about, the word prosperity often conjures up images of wealth and material success. However, true prosperity encompasses a much richer tapestry of the human experience. So these prompts invite us to delve deeper into our own understanding of prosperity each week this month. And this week, our prompt is, how does your definition of prosperity align with your current values and goals? Are there any discrepancies? And if so, how might you reconcile them? So this kind of builds off of the prompt that we had last week, which was, what does the word prosperity mean to you? It is, is it primarily about financial wealth, or does it encompass other areas of life as well? So this is kind of building off of last week, where we kind of talked about what that word means to us. So now we're digging into, now that you have this definition, is it aligned to your current goals and values? Are there discrepancies? And if so, how might you reconcile them? So the prompt is still here up on the right-hand side, just a heads up there. But for me, I feel that my definition of prosperity aligns really well with my vision for the year, because my word of the year is serenity, and like the way that I plan to achieve that is kind of through clarity, alignment, manifestation, actualization. So really kind of leaning into all of those areas of life and leaning into that abundant nature and hopefulness and those kinds of things. But if I'm honest, focusing on self-care and creating that serenity really requires a lot of space and time, to be intentional. And right now, I don't think I'm giving it the time that it needs. But, I'm working on that. I'm working on some new routines and things. And so continuing to establish those routines are going to help me create more space for that. And I just need to be patient and keep focusing on one step at a time, without losing sight of that overall goal. Because if I can continue to work on these initial steps, it's going to help to give me the time that I need to apply this on a broader scale. So there are some quotes here that kind of talk about making sure you're being honest with yourself and, thinking about alignment, to maybe give you some inspiration. But ultimately, just be honest with yourself, right? It's your journal. This is your kind of journey and your interaction with prosperity. And it's kind of one of those moments to check in and get really honest about, okay, these are the things that I've said that I want, and these are the things that I think, prosperity means to me and how I'd like to kind of align them with my life. But am I really prepared to kind of get myself there? And if the answer is no, that's okay. And it doesn't mean that you have to snap your fingers and make it a yes tomorrow, right? Like I've said in my own response to the prompt that I don't feel like I'm giving it the time that it deserves, but I'm doing the things that I need to do to create that time. So it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's just going to require a little bit of patience. for myself, because I tend to get a little impatient when it comes to things like that, and then I try to do too much all at once. So just one thing at a time, one step at a time, and it's okay um, if that answer is no, that it's not aligned and that you need to make some changes, because the first step is kind of just acknowledging that misalignment and then figuring out what you want to do from there. So I'm going to put on some music for y'all to think about this, and I'll hop back and forth between these slides while you work. Definitely shout out in the chat what's coming up for you if you feel comfortable sharing, and then we'll move into our next activity. All right. Thank you all for spending some time with this. If you are still working on this, that is totally fine. Sometimes it takes a little bit to kind of get the juices flowing on these different prompts and things. But we are now going to move into our next exercise, which is our rosebud thorn. So you can really do a rosebud thorn exercise any day of the week or really any time that you would like. But it is pre-printed in your journal, and this week it is on page 36. So kind of thinking about the last 7 days and reflecting on a rose, something that is a highlight that went well, maybe something that made you smile, something to celebrate, a bud, which is like an emerging opportunity, something around the horizon. It could be something that you're excited for or even a little nervous about. And then a thorn, something that, is maybe a little bit harder, has been a bit of a challenge, something you could use some support with. So I like to do mine in reverse. So for my thorn last week, I just didn't have a lot of downtime to focus on me. I like worked a little bit more than usual last week, and as a result, like wasn't home quite as much. And when I was home, I've been trying to focus on these new routines and things, so I just haven't had a lot of just downtime to do fun things or relax or kind of replenish in the way that I normally would. It seems like every time that I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna sit and read," or "I'm gonna do this and that," I'm like, "Okay, well let me do all my other things first." And then by the time I get them done, it's time to go to sleep. So, but that's okay. There are gonna be weeks like that, and so as long as it doesn't become a new pattern, I'm not too concerned about it. But that was sort of a bummer last week. And then my bud is that I am currently involved in a new project at work, and we're kind of like nearing the end of phase one and like starting on phase two. And there's like a deadline approaching next week. And I feel good about it. And the person that I am kind of managing for this project feels good about it too. So seems like all good things, but we'll see what happens. And then my rose is just the snow, and then a great work week overall. Even though I did work a little bit more this week, it was a very fulfilling week. I got a lot of stuff done. I'm really proud of how I showed up for myself and my team. And so, yeah, even though it was a little off balance last week, it wasn't a bad thing necessarily. So, feel free to share with us in the chat what's coming up for you for this rosebud and thorn section. This is one of my favorite parts of the weekly social because we kind of all get a little bit of a glimpse into what's going on in each other's lives and, get to experience that broader sense of community as we celebrate one another with those roses and support one another with those thorns. So I'll put on some music for you while you're sharing, and then we'll move into our next section. Thank you all for sharing. Please continue to share if you are still typing up those rosebud and thorns. Like I said before, I love seeing all the different ways that we're kind of connected together, and often we're kind of struggling with the same things, or there are people that have been there and gone through a similar thing. And likewise, like we love to celebrate you all and, be there to kind of cheer you on through the good times as well. And sometimes we're celebrating similar things too. And it's really nice to know that we have this connection beyond just the pages in our journal. So we're now going to get into our main event, which is our weekly setup. So this week we are setting up on pages 40 and 41 in your January journal. So these are both of my pages combined together, but we'll be taking this, step by step through each section. And we are going to start with this week, I want to feel. So my word of the year this year, like I said, is serenity. And last year, my word was embrace. And to kind of keep that word front of mind, I decided to change the this week I want to feel in my journal this week to this week I want to embrace. And that worked really well for me. And so I'm going to continue that this year with my new word of serenity and kind of think about how I want to invite or create or support serenity in my life each week. So this week, I want to support serenity by continuing to honor my routines. They're like going pretty well, just got to keep going and making sure that they actually get established. But there are some other ideas of some different feelings and things in that little word cloud up on the screen. And then we have all of these awesome examples from all of you in Sonder Club, and you can see that like there is no right or wrong way to do this section of the journal or really any section of your journal, right? This is your journal. So whatever needs to happen for it to work for you in your life and connect to you, feel free to make tweaks and changes as needed to make that happen. So you can see in these examples, like lots of folks did just pick a single word or feeling, but there's also quotes, there's definitions, there's stickers. You could even just do a color if you're like, you know what? I just want to feel the way that I feel when I look at the color blue next week, and I'm just going to color the square blue. You could do that. Again, there's no rules. The only rule is that you make this work for you. So as we go through these different sections for your weekly setup, I'll have different slides with examples. And then I'll put on the music for each section and I'll hop back and forth between slides while you're working. So just to kind of give a quick overview. So I'll throw on a song real quick while you think about this week you want to feel what or how you'd like to change this section to work better for you. Okay. If you're still thinking about how you want to fill in this section or what you want to use for your how I want to feel section, no worries. Sometimes this ends up being the last thing I actually fill out in the journal for the week because, especially if I have a busy week, sometimes I can't figure out how I want to feel as I move through the week until I get it all kind of sorted out of my brain and on paper. So if you're still thinking about it, don't worry, it'll come to you. We are now going to hop down to our middle section on that first page, which is our weekly to-dos and weekly major 3 goals. Now, a lot of folks have started kind of combining these sections together, and I'm going to hop over to this slide real quick to kind of show you what I mean, where they will kind of pick an area of focus for their major 3 goals, and then in their to-dos, they kind of pick some to-dos to support that area of focus. So I think like the examples in the center and also at the top right kind of make it really clear that like they are focusing on mind, body, and home, and then they've got these 3 things to support that, or just a single thing to support, that overall intention that they have. And so that is what I mean when I say that some folks are deciding to kind of combine these sections together. But you do not have to combine them. You can treat them separately. I also combine these sections together currently, but I do it in a little bit of a different way. So I am a part of the personalized coaching platform beta that Silk and Sonder has going on. And so that means that I get deliveries from my life coach each week. And one of the things that comes in that delivery is 3 weekly affirmations. So instead of weekly major 3 goals, I put my 3 weekly affirmations there. I used to do 3 major goals here, but for me personally, it didn't really help my focus in any way. I didn't find myself like tackling those goals any faster or slower. They were just kind of there because that's what the section was for. And this again is another example of like, just because it says this doesn't mean you have to do this. You should do whatever speaks to you and whatever fits your life. So when I started getting the deliveries from the life coach of the weekly 3 affirmations, I was like, you know what? Why not? I'm going to try it here and see what happens. And I found that this works a lot better for me. I don't really have a problem with like productivity. I have more of a problem with like being present and taking things slower and moving, being intentional and that sort of thing. So for me, doing the weekly 3 works really well. And then in my to-do section, I list out my appointments and things, and then I list 3 things to support each one of those affirmations. So like I embrace change with grace and trust my wisdom to guide me to harmony and balance. For that, I'm going to meditate to support that affirmations as an example. So like I said, you can combine these together, but you also can treat them separately. So here are some examples of how folks have decided to treat the weekly to-do section. You can treat it like a normal to-do list, right? Like write off all the stuff that you need to do and kind of check it off as you go. You could also flip the script and try a to-do list. So the to-do list is different from to-do. Instead of listing off everything you need to get done for the week, you are listing off things as you get them done. And then at the end of the week, you get to see everything you accomplished and go, ta-da, look what I did. But as Katie, my partner in crime here today, likes to say, it doesn't matter if it's to do or to-da as long as it gets to done. I love that. If you have a lot going on this week and you're feeling a little overwhelmed, like there's no way I'm going to get to it all, then you might want to spend some time with that Eisenhower matrix in the top left corner to try to figure out what's actually important and urgent to get done this week. Maybe it's something that can wait for another week, or maybe it's not even something that you actually need to do. Sometimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves of the shoulds, if you will, and we kind of need to slow down for a bit and think about if it's actually something that we need, right? Also, if you struggle with executive dysfunction, just like getting started on tasks, and that's why you find yourself doing the same things every week on that to-do list, is because you keep not getting to them, you might want to try that Pomodoro technique where you set a timer, agree to work on the task for that short amount of time, and then once the timer goes off, you can kind of record your progress and decide, okay, do I want to do this for another, 15, 20 minutes, or am I done? A lot of the times, once you just get started on the task, you're already moving and grooving, and then you'll keep going. You also don't have to make this a productivity focus. You could make this a to-be list or a need, want, hope list. You can also make it fun. You can turn it into a bingo, and not just a task bingo, but like you could do a self-care bingo, or if you have something like fun going on this week, maybe it's your birthday week. And so maybe you want to make sure that you're taking times to celebrate. And so maybe you want to do like a birthday bingo. I also like the examples in the bottom here of something that they want to embrace and release and something they want to do this week, but also things that they don't want to do and what they want to do instead. You can also put routines here, and if nothing else, we love a good sticker. We love a good quote. Of the mindset that if it makes you smile, it is still doing something productive for your life. So even if you don't want to fill this up with to-dos, if you put a sticker there that makes you smile, I think it is still serving a purpose. For that weekly major 3, again, you could divide into different areas of focus and maybe list out some ways that you want to lean into those things. You could decide to think back to that feeling that you just identified of how you want to feel and kind of tie in your goals to support that feeling and then the to-dos to support the goals, right? Make it really holistic and make it flow. I like the example too in the bottom here where they wrote out some goals and things, but they also wrote out the why behind those goals. That can be really helpful as the week goes on and gets busier for reminding us why we wanted to make this some areas of focus to start with. You could do affirmations like me and really anything that floats your boat. You can also kind of go off script completely in this section. Like maybe you are not in a normal routine this week. Maybe you've got something else going on, whether it's travel for work or vacation, or you're doing something with your friends in your community. So maybe you want to switch this up to fit that section, like movies and TV shows, a self-care jar, quotes, mantras. Again, the only rule when it comes to your journal is that you are making it work for you. So I will now hop back and forth between all of these different examples here and give you some time to think about how you want to make this work for you. Okay, with those sections tackled, we are going to hop down to the habit and activity section, or as some of you like to call them, the habities. Now, you do have that sort of like large monthly habit wheel towards the front of your journal, right? And that is should be something that you kind of want to track every day this month. The nice thing about having this habities section in the weekly setup area is that you can kind of incorporate some flexibility. So things that maybe you only need or want to track just for this week, or maybe you have a goal on that monthly wheel that is going really well. Like maybe you said, I'm going to try to walk 3,000 steps a day, and you are just knocking that goal out of the park. So maybe just 3 times this week, you want to see if you can stretch that goal a little bit and go a little bit further. Maybe it's 5,000 steps instead of 3,000 steps and kind of see how that feels. And if it goes well, then maybe in next month's habit will you want to up that goal for the whole month, right? Likewise, if there's a goal that you set that you're kind of struggling with, maybe you were like, I'm going to drink 100 ounces of water today. That's me. And then it's not happening. Also me. So maybe for the weekly habit, you want to like lower that goal to a little bit more of a realistic, like ramp up starting period, so that that way you can hopefully kind of have a reset, and maybe by the end of the week you'll be hitting the overall goal that you wanted. But for me, I really like to focus on that monthly habit wheel. So I do breath work in this section. That's another thing that comes to me from the personalized coaching platform. I have anxiety, and so spending some time really just sitting and breathing is very good for me and my mental health. But I know that when Katie was getting started, she was kind of the opposite for me. She really preferred to focus in on the weekly habits and activities versus the monthly because she needed more of that flexibility. So again, this is another example of doing whatever works for you. So here are some examples of how other folks have used this section. You can set a specific goal for the week if you are tracking some sort of goal or task oriented thing. You can say, I want to do this 5 times this week, or you can just track it as it happens. You can use little symbols to track or numbers, whatever works for you. I thought that this example in the top right was kind of cool. They're doing like a acronym of CARE. So they have it as clean, active, read, and express. And then they've got the stickers there next to it of declutter, exercise, read, and journal. So I thought that was cool. I had not seen that before. You can also use this for a section to help build out routines. If you've got a new routine you're trying to establish, and it's just got a few steps, this might be a good place to do that. You could also focus on not doing things like stopping to bite your nails, cutting back on alcohol or other substances like that. Or you could also use this as a place to check in with your journal, right? So you could say, I'm going to track on my monthly wheel, I'm going to track my mood tracker, like making sure that you are checking in with those other pages each week and each day. Likewise, as we have said about all of the sections here today, and you will hear us say this in just about any social that you come to, you can switch this up. It does not have to be for activity tracking if that does not serve you. You can use it to do a check-in. You could decide to really focus in on the activities part rather than the habits. Those of you that have like birthdays coming up this week that we talked about, maybe you want to do some fun birthday activities, like maybe each day this week you want to just do something nice for yourself, or maybe each day this week you want to share some gratitude with someone in your life. I think birthdays often make us reflective, and so it can be a good time to kind of reach out to those important people and say, hey, I just want to let you know that you really enhance my life and I appreciate you. So you could focus more on the activity section rather than the task section, if you will. So again, I will put on some music for you all and hop between these examples. If you feel comfortable sharing in the chat what you decide to do with this section, we would love to hear from you. Right. It is time for us to turn the page. Whoop, not that fast. It's time for us to turn the page and hop over to the section titled Meal Plan. Now, this section gets repurposed a lot, not because having a meal plan or a meal tracker isn't beneficial, because it can be super helpful depending on what your goals are and what you're looking to pay attention to, right? But it just takes up a lot of real estate in the journal, and it is formatted in a way that works really well for a lot of different things. So for that reason, a lot of people do switch it up or change it to different things. For me, I use it for my meetings at work. It kind of helps me to, one, make sure I don't double book myself, right? I have like my personal obligations over on that to-do section, and then I have my work obligations over here on this section, and it has saved my tail a time or two when I accidentally did double book, and so I was able to get it fixed before it became a problem. But it also just helps me like start my week with some perspective and figure out what I have going on. For example, I can see on Monday I have more meetings than I think I have had in a single day in many months. And so I have that whoa there at the top, because I'm just going to have to lean into it and get through it, and then carve out some really good time for rest when I get home that day. But I don't typically work on Saturdays and Sundays, so that is where I put the journal prompts that I get from the personalized coaching platform. I very much am a like out of sight, out of mind person. So having it there in my journal each week reminds me to engage with those and make sure that I'm getting the most out of it. Here are some other examples of how people have used this section. So you can see that some folks do absolutely use it as a meal plan or a meal tracker, but there are also all of these other ways that people are making this section work for them. You've got lots of folks that use it as a place to kind of check in or track happy moments or affirmations. The person over on the right-hand side has actually got it going for a dual purpose. So they're doing blood glucose and then also doing some check-in prompts there. And then we have some more examples here. Somebody did this fun mood tracker where they decided to track their mood each day in the form of a song, victory inventory of kind of like, hey, this is one thing I did well today or one thing I did well this week. Some people put their to-dos over here. They use the to-dos section on the other page for something else, and then they actually break down their daily to-dos over here on this section. So again, always just figuring out what works for you. And if you're not sure what works for you yet, that's okay. It takes some time to just try out some different things. The nice thing about Silk and Sonder is like every week is a brand new week, every month is a brand new month. And so even if you try something and then it doesn't really work for you, next week you can try something else. And you never know when you're going to find the thing that becomes your jam that you just leaned onto every single week. So it can take a little bit of trial and error. So again, I'll put on some music for you all, and then we'll get into our next sections together. We are getting close to the end here. All right. We're going to hop down now to the Mind Body Health Plan and the shopping list section. This is another area where people have started to kind of combine them together, or they will kind of transform this section in similar ways. And so I have combined them into my setup for you all. So for my Mind Body Health Plan, the biggest routine I'm trying to really like focus in on right now is my nighttime routine. These are all things that I already do, but I need to focus on doing them in a specific order each night for efficiency. So that's what I have for my Mind Body Health. And then the shopping list section I use as intended. It is a shopping list. Again, out of sight, out of mind with my brain. And so if I don't have a place to write things down, then I will impulse buy them a lot because I'm afraid that I'll forget. And if I don't impulse buy them and I don't write them down, then I really do forget. So it helps me to kind of just keep an idea of things that I'm interested in buying or that I need to buy. And then I also have kind of a running list of to-dos underneath that as well that are things that I have no intention of doing this week. They're not anything I'm committing to. Again, it's just overall goals that I don't really want to lose sight of. But you can see some different examples here of how people have decided to use these sections. If you are going to carve out a mind body health plan and actually make it a plan, please make sure that you are carving out time for rest. Rest is arguably the most important action you can take because anything else that you want to do is going to require you to kind of fill up that cup with rest so that you can move and groove and do all those other goals and things that you want. You can also see where people have decided to kind of lean in and do a check-in with themselves of what they feel and what they need, turning this section into a bingo, whether it's something fun, like somebody decided to lean into like the holiday to-dos and things, or if it's more of like a self-care bingo. We see that a lot for a lot of folks. I like the current tools up in the top right section where somebody's talking about their current tools for themselves, or books, apps, and podcasts, and what those current things are that they are engaging in. You can also do a quote of the week in these sections. I like the washi scraps idea. It's almost like a fun little abstract art project each week. You can do a little bit of journaling here or just some like reminders. A lot of people like to plan out their wardrobe for the week in this section too to kind of just make things easier on themselves. And there's lots of other good ideas there in the center. So I will put on one more song for you here, and then we will wrap up our time together. It always goes by so fast. If you can believe it, We have been together for 1 whole hour today. It always zooms by so fast in the blink of an eye. As we close out our time together, if you would like to share one thing you are loving, we would love to hear from you. I am currently loving the snow outside. I'm going to enjoy it for as long as it is here. But yes, please share in the chat what you are loving as we close out. Thank you all so much for being here and spending this time with yourself and also together. If you feel comfortable sharing pictures of the pages you got done today in Sonder Club, we would love to see them and potentially feature them on a future social. You heard me talk several times today about the personalized coaching platform because I use it in my setup. So Katie's going to be throwing some links in the chat if you would like to learn more about that. Also going into the chat should be our YouTube page where the recording of this social and most of our socials can be found a few days after the event. Just give them a little bit of time to get that set up and everything. But if you ever miss a social, can't make it to one, need to go back, or just want to view any of the like 800 socials that are on there now, you can always pop there and give it a listen. So the playlist that I used today is actually my Sonder Social master list. So there are like 400 songs on there. It's kind of crazy. It's like over 20 hours of listening time. So if you need a jumping off point to make your own playlist for your journaling, or if you just need to throw on some music and journal for a long period of time, you are welcome to use that link I just threw in the chat and pick that one apart. But it was our sincere pleasure getting to spend this time with each of you today. We hope that you're feeling ready for the week ahead. And until next time, be good to each other, and we'll see you all in Sonder Club.
Oh, when you need a hand, I will be your friend. Oh, when you need a hand, oh, I will be your friend. Take it easy, yeah. Make yourself right at home. And never leave me, yeah. You don't have to feel alone, yeah. Oh, slip off your shoes and find your feet. Let everything come naturally. Oh, loosen the grip of what you need. Home is a state of mind, you'll see. I know you've been searching